Hey, okay. This is the first time I've done that with a go live button. That was weird. So, I can see myself. I don't like that. All right. Minimizing distractions. Looking at Josh Allen. Okay, so we're going to do a Saturday morning work along. I started this and then, of course, was visited by toddlers who want to make waffles. They're going to take care of that. That's exciting. But my goal here is just to basically do a work along stream. I just recorded like an hour ago the week 43 C Sharp weekly devlog thing. That'll be up later today. But I have this hour ish of time when we are going to be working on some code, and I thought this could be a neat little time to do a work along. So if you're working on something cool, drop it in the chat. Tell us what you're working on. If you're researching, what are you researching? If you're doom scrolling, what are you doom scrolling about? But my idea here is I'm just going to kind of talk through my process as I code, show you the coding, show you the realistic reality of somebody learning to code, working on a project, which is sometimes exhilarating and a lot of times frustrating. But the whole purpose of this channel has always been to show that off and be honest about it, and show you how to work through the hurdles. So I'm going to work through my workflow process, and if this is fun, then maybe I will. Maybe I'll do it more often. I don't know. So again, I don't ask for anything. Subscriptions are cool, but not mandatory at all. I don't sell anything. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in teaching because that's my vocation. But yeah, so let's start with some priorities. So when I work on anything, I generally use Notepad because I'm forced to use Windows at work, but I like Obsidian for at home, and it's just my to-do list, right? So if you've done any kind of programming with Python or JavaScript or C Sharp or C++, you've probably made a to-do app. At some point, I should probably make my own, just as a curiosity. I haven't done one in like a year. But I use Obsidian to track my to-dos, and it kind of gives me some anchor and context points because if you watch my video diaries, you know that I only have an hour and a half each day to work, and that's only if I wake up at like 5 in the morning and then I stay up until 10:30 or 11 at night and I work. Once in a while I can eke out some minutes on my lunch if I do a working lunch, but because of the nature of my job I don't really have a set lunch period. It's kind of fluid and weird and very unpredictable. So a lot of my work is done nocturnally, and so that means I'll go 24, 48 hours between sessions where I can actually code or work on a project, even if it's not coding, 3D modeling, art, whatever, game design. Um, so I have a lot of to-do lists. It's very important to my workflow, and it's also a means of self-coaching. So it helps me identify what's going on, what's not working, or what needs to work, and then start to implement potential solutions, and then monitor the outcome of those. So I found a very simple, prioritized to-do list, uh, guided by questions or statements if I know exactly what needs to be done, gets me motivated, gives me context, gets me into the workflow faster. So here's my to-do list for May 10. I don't know if I'm going to get to everything with the time that I do have allotted because we're doing some family friend stuff at the end of the day. My goal is not to sit here on my duff all day long coding, but just to make some tangible progress. So I've got three things that are kind of like brick by brick right now where I'm building a system, an arch, and in order for that arch to function, I have to build up to the keystone, which means I need a socket system because that will allow me to persistently visualize weapons and equipment on the character. I need weapon states and components to work because right now the first thing it does is fail because I don't have those built. The references are there. It's trying to call the references, and then it throws an error, which is what I expect, so it's not a bad thing. And then, oh, we're not even looking at the same screen. Duh. And then display capture, window capture. Aggravating. Aggravating. I just want you to capture what's on my display. There it is. Okay. So I've got my socket system, right? How do armor prefabs know to keep track of where their sockets should be? How are those transforms accessed? How do we snap objects into transforms? My thought there is that I'm going to have to just write a socket manager script that stores those as references that can be grabbed as public properties by the inventory script. The inventory script lives on the root of the object, so I would just need to search children whenever we do this. I think that's fine. I think it's not a performance heavy system. It's not scanning tons of objects. I think it'll be fine. And then I need to build some weapon states. So I need the idle weapon state at the very least so it stops throwing an error every time I start the game. And I need a magazine loader and reload system. I'm going to start with magazine just because it's the easiest of them to code. And that gives me a template and a prototype for building other types in the meantime. And then I need to start to look at my health manager component because at the moment, even if I had gunplay working, there's no way to take damage. So once those three things are working more or less, then I can start to do like semi-automatic fire, work on particle systems, etc. And the arch gets built very quickly because the higher you go and the more you start to turn inward, the faster the arch closes itself. So this is the really basic foundation for what I need to get gunplay working in this version of the project. And if you have not watched my most recent update, let me just make sure that it's still showing my screen because I don't trust what I can't see, and I work on one monitor like a heathen. Yeah, okay, you can see it. The most recent version of my project has an animated character. So we're making a twin stick shooter. That's the goal. I did some animation work this week. I find animation incredibly stressful because it's just alien to me, but it does work more or less, and I want it to get to the point now where it is able to be gunplay. So that means I'm going to have to change out this walking animation when we're doing single stick drivers. I do want this experience here, where when you're doing twin stick aiming, I think you're using more of your brain. I think you're being more considered. I like the idea that you just move slower when you're twin stick aiming. You can see this in the navigation speed itself. It slows down by about 25%, and that has a nice feel to it. It's snappy at the moment because I'm using my directional keys. It's not like that on a controller. On a controller, it's much smoother, and you can see it does lerp back and forth depending on the angle that you're at. So no snapping, just a much better version. And I know this animation here looks a little bit goofy. It looks like he's pointing off this way. It's a factor of this very active idle animation that he's doing, which is just the one that I had downloaded. But that's not germane to what we're working on today, which is inventory systems. And as you can see, I'm getting some null reference errors to my weapon state machine in line 34 because I don't have an ammo initializer thing. This doesn't exist. It is just, at the moment, an interface. And the interface is calling for something to exist here. But if we look at... What are we reloading? I didn't save anything. Whatever. If we look at the Comanche pistol, there is no reloader. It just doesn't exist, right? If I look for reload, I get magazine, reload. Oh, there's two there, but I think if I load it up, nothing happens. So let's do a little code walkthrough from the top down to show how these systems interact, and then we'll start with the coding, I think. So we have a base state. The base state is the shared ancestor state for all states in my system, and it has enter, exit, and tick. It is not a mono behavior, so tick passes delta time into it. It is also abstract. All of these are abstract, so I can overwrite them when I do a concrete implementation. The base state inherits to, for example, weapon state, and the weapon state becomes a protected weapon state machine so that I can pass this reference down. It is a property too, so it can be get, got, and set. And I have a base constructor here that just quickly assembles things the way that I need, and then the only thing that's being overwritten in the weapon state, which is still abstract, is the tick. Now, what that means is because it's an abstract state, I can't add this to any of my weapons, and you can see in my weapon states I don't have anything right here. There, I haven't written any of these yet. I think I'm going to do that today. The goal is to keep the states as lean as possible and utilize the hierarchical inheritance polymorphism to keep the code very dry as much as I can. So I only want to overwrite things that absolutely must be overwritten. The reload system should be referenced by the weapon state machine, but as you can see, does not exist. So that's something that I need to add in here. And actually, let's pull up this to-do list, and we're going to look at weapon composition problems, and we're going to say no reload component in WSM throws error, and we're also going to say no states, so throws error at runtime. And what other issues do we have? No, well, yeah, we'll stop there because these are ones that we can address bird by bird. So, with that said, if we look back at our magazine reload, it is a mono behavior. And I have this other one. You know what? Let's go back into Unity for a hot second here. Oh, that's not Unity. Unity. Where did you go? There you are. Okay. So if we go back into Unity, I see I have this duplicate, and I don't want that there. And I'm almost thinking that it would make sense to create a reloader component. Why? I didn't want that to generate there. Okay, into scripts you go. Compiles on waste of my time. Okay, reloader component is going to go into weapon logic. Yeah. Compile again. Weapon components. Okay, reloader component. Goodbye. Okay, now we can pop this bad boy open, and I think we need to deal with what is common. So all reloader components need ammo stats from the WSM's weapon config, which we will do in a public void initialize. What did I call it here? Weapon state. Weapon state machine. Awake. Okay, initialize ammo. That's what I called it. And weapon config.magazine capacity. Actually, we should just pass the weapon config into it. Because, come on, stop. We're going to pass the weapon config in. The reason for that, why is it still throwing an error? Oh, it's throwing an error because this is, yeah. Okay, we want, okay. We're going to want to grab the max reserve ammo, the reserve ammo, magazine capacity, always. So I think those need to be inside of our, let's close out. Yep, we'll save. We'll save. We can always open these up if we need them more. We're going to want to share those between them. So when we initialize ammo, we need to have a couple of other fields. And let's pull the weapon config up so we can take a look at what it offers. Weapon states, player states, inventories, scripts, weapon config. Okay. Pull this over to the side. Shrink it because there's not that much there. Okay. So here's where we want to figure out magazine capacity. So we'll do protected magazine int magazine capacity. Well, No, we'll do int current ammo equals or get protected set, because we're going to want this to, oh wait, I don't have to do anything with that. Protected int reserve ammo, current reserve ammo, get set. And we'll do, we don't need to do the other ones because unless we want to store a permanent reference. Would it matter? It can't hurt. We'll do protected weapon config, what, get set. Okay, so now those will be inherited upward. So we want to do, we also want to do abstract there. So we want to do current ammo equals weapon config dot magazine capacity. So what that will do is when the game starts, when this method is called, rather, it will make sure that the current ammo in the magazine is equivalent to whatever the weapon SO, weapon configuration, stipulates as the magazine capacity. We're not subtracting it from the SO, we're just setting the integer, the value, as equal to it. And then current reserve ammo equals weapon config dot reserve ammo. And that is like the ammo pool in the background. So if you have 28 bullets in your magazine and you have 64 shells in your pocket and you have to reload, then you would subtract 28 from the 64 and you'd have whatever the remainder is there, 24, I guess. Something like that. All right. So now we have our initialize ammo. And do we need to set anything else? We could be safe and clamp things, but I don't think that would be necessary. Let's see. No, I don't think we need to do anything else. I think that's okay. Okay, and then, yeah, we need public void, and let's take a look at our interface index. We need reload. So we need a public void reload. And we could turn this into a bool return. True or false. I don't know. We're doing a magazine reload, so we'll do public virtual void, and maybe, thinking architecturally, maybe I should leave this unstipulated. Yeah, I think that's probably the right call. I could turn the default one into magazine reload, but then I have to stipulate audio and reload, and maybe that's just not the right way to go about this. So, okay, so all reloader components need ammo stats from the weapons config, and we have left reload as virtual. And should I leave it as virtual or should I leave it as abstract? This should be virtual because that might not always be the case. Left reload as abstract. So concrete definitions have custom logic. Left initialize ammo as virtual, so it can be overridden if necessary. That might be the case if I'm working with soup battery. So I think being forward thinking here, this is probably the better way to go. We'll do. Yeah, I almost think that I don't need this. in there. But for now, I'm going to leave it. I can always refactor it if I want to just, shrink it up a little bit. All right, so now we have reload component. Does this need to even be a mono behavior? I don't know. I almost don't think so. I don't think so. Nothing in here is dependent on mono behaviors. It's just, it is what it is. That's tricky. Let's go under the idea that at the moment they do not need to be mono behaviors, and we'll go look at our magazine reload and see if that blows up in our face. So we're going to call this as a reloader component, and obviously it doesn't stipulate. Come on, I should be using a mouse. That is part of the problem. I'm not using a mouse, I'm using a trackpad. There we go. When we hit get on my face, we hit Command Enter, implement base. Okay. And we also want to have a public magazine reload over public magazine reload. And we need to have, well, no, I don't think we need to have anything, right? Unless it was weapon config, base weapon config. That would be it, right? But yeah, the base doesn't even have one. Let's go back and look at the base real quick. Okay, so actually maybe it should. Public reloader component weapon config. And then we can drop this, and we can say weapon config equals this dot weapon config equals weapon config. Is that better? I don't know if it's better, but it's good practice with the constructors, which makes this happy. And I'm getting a little bit long there. Let's see, how many columns in are we? Column 77. Yeah, we can truncate this. I like it shorter. Looks more like poetry. Okay, so now on reload, which will be called from the input state, if current ammo is less than weapon config dot magazine's capacity, greater than or equal to return. There's my guard clause. Okay. Also, if reserve, actually wait, let's see. Let's do this in pseudocode. If current ammo is equal or greater than mag capac, return. And if reserve ammo is less than or equal to 0, return. All right. I am not a huge fan of multiple conditional statements. I find that I get them backwards a lot of the time. So I'm going to do these as two separate guard clauses. So if reserve, where is it? Reloader, current reserve ammo. If current reserve ammo is less than or equal to 0, return. So that means you cannot reload if you don't need to reload, and if you don't have reserve ammo, then you can't reload. Oh, I forgot something. This assumes we can never add any ammo. That's not right. So we need to public abstract, well, no, public virtual void add ammo to reserve. Add reserve ammo. And we'll do int value. And we'll do current, if current reserve ammo, wow. If current reserve ammo is greater than or equal to weapon config dot max reserve ammo return. Otherwise, current reserve ammo plus equals value, and we'll do current reserve ammo equals mathf dot clamp current reserve ammo 0 weapon config dot max reserve ammo. Good. Okay. And we can leave a to-do hook here. To-do play SFX for equipping ammo. All right. So now we can actually add ammo as public. Good. All right. I like that. We don't have to deal with that here. Keeps us nice and lean. Okay. So now we would say public. Public. No. Weapon. Ooh. There's an issue. I can't refer back to the state machine. Okay. Okay. Let's go back into the reloader component. So when we initialize, we need weapon, state machine, weapon SM, and we'll do protected weapon state machine weapon SM get set. Okay, and we'll do there we go. This dot weapon SM equals weapon SM. And for consistency, we will capitalize properties. There we go. There we go. Oh, I see why I didn't do that. Okay. That's fine. Who cares? I'm solo team here. All right, magazine reloader. Okay, base weapon config. We also need a weapon state machine weapon SM capital on that bad boy, and we need weapon SM. Okay. And it should be taking care of everything here. So now we can say weapon SM dot set should fire false, meaning you cannot interrupt. I don't know why I did that. And we need to, yeah, good. Okay, so now all of our logic is in here. So here's where we would play SFX, play animation. And this might actually be the right time to do this as a bool. This might be why. So to do change to bool, return, so weapon or FX hooks come from the same area. All right. I don't know what all that crap is up at the top with the using statements. Doesn't matter. Okay, so now we just say current ammo equals weapon config dot magazine capacity, and then that's it. However, I do see an issue here. Logically, I don't need you anymore. Logically, this always assumes that there is enough reserve ammo to always fill if it's above 0, and that's not correct. So I think in here we need to have if current reserve ammo is less than or equal to weapon config dot magazine capacity, then current ammo plus equals current reserve ammo. Current reserve ammo equals 0. think that'll deal with it. Because we're not adjusting the actual weapon config. We're adjusting the current reserve ammo, which is stipulated in the reloader component. Else, so that means that if the current reserve ammo is greater than the magazine capacity, then we would just set current ammo to weapon config magazine capacity, and we would say well, we could just subtract it, right? So current reserve ammo minus equals magazine capacity. That should do it, logically, because we're subtracting exactly that amount. Right? No, well, no. I don't think so. I think that's going to be off. So something about that's just not speaking right to me. Okay, so if current ammo is greater than the weapon magazine capacity, you can't reload. Excuse me. And if the current reserve ammo is less than 0, so there's no reserve ammo, you can't reload. Then, if those are true and you made it through the gates, then set the weapon state machine to fire as false, so it can't shoot while it's reloading in this concrete implementation. Then if the current reserve ammo maybe I'm dealing with this in the backwards. So if current reserve ammo is greater than or equal to magazine weapon config.magazine capacity. Okay, so if we have a whole magazine capacity available in the reserve ammo, then we can say current reserve ammo minus equals weapon config.magazine capacity. So draw it down all the way and set current. Well, I don't know how much ammo we need. Or I'm assuming I'm at 0. So do I want to do this Helldiver style where we throw everything out, basically? All the extra rounds. Maybe we do. Maybe that is what we want. Maybe we want it to be a little bit harsh with magazine firing. Like if I have 5 rounds left and I just set it to full, those 5 rounds are gone. But they would have been chucked away with the rest of the magazine. So you know what? I'm going to make a designer decision and say that's the case. Don't waste your ammo. So, yeah. We'll do current current ammo plus equals magazine capacity. I think that'll do it. And then we'll do else if the current reserve ammo is less than the magazine capacity, then we will say current ammo is plus equals incremented by whatever we have left in the current reserve ammo, and we'll just set the current reserve ammo down to nothing. I think that is the right way to handle it. Yeah, I think that it's a little harsh, maybe, as far as game design goes, but I think it also makes sense. This dot. I don't think I need to do anything here. Okay. So then there's our magazine reload. Okay. So we're just going to drop a note here. Note unspent ammo is lost on reload. Helldivers style. Okay. And then at some point I'm going to have to play the SFX and the animation, which would be audio manager or audio weapon sm dot audio or odd source, I think is what I called it, dot play one shot, I think, and it would be whatever the weapon config dot reload SFX is, something like that. And this would be play weapon sm dot anim dot set trigger reload magazine true, something like that. Doot like that. Okay, so those are there for when I'm ready for them. All right, I think we have our magazine reload components set now, and we should. I guess what we should do is we need to look at the weapon composition script. So going back to Unity, let's see if it spits out errors. Okay. Those are editor errors. Let's clear. Okay. Look at the Comanche pistol. Weapon state machine. So at the moment, do we have our... We do not have an odd source. Odd source. Oh, it's not being used though. Alright. I need to stipulate ammo manager. And what am I not implementing? To hell with that. Pop a state machine. We're going to call this reload component. Reloader component. All right, reloader component, and we'll do reloader component, although this is wrong. Okay, void start. We need to initialize gun. Weapon config. Initialize gun. All right. Okay, so first thing is we need to run the factory pattern here. So switch weapon config dot reload type case reload type dot magazine. How do I do this? It's been a while since I've done a switch statement. Whoa, that's fugly. Break. Alright, now it's less angry at us. Let me see real quickly. Let's get my player's handbook. Okay. It's been a little bit, but this is the way I want to work this. So case, object-oriented programming, let's check, variables, replicator. Well, that's not helpful. We have an index, case, switch statements. Level 10. Level 13, level 12, level 11. All right. String response equal choice switch. Got it. Okay. Get out of here. Stop. Unhelpful AI. Okay. Reload. What do we call it? What are we looking for here? We need our ammo manager equals new reload. New magazine reload. This and weapon config. Although, let's see, we have our weapon config is right there. So in theory, we don't need this. We have it. Equals. There's our constructor. That's all we need there. And then weapon config equals weapon sm.weapon config. Okay, that's better. Just got to fix a couple things here. Drop that. Drop that. Everything else is functioning. Okay. Dot initialize ammo takes one argument. What? No. Yeah, it doesn't. Doesn't need it. Okay. All right. So now we've got initializing the gun, weapon config, and we would say case reload type dot manual equal new magazine. Nothing. We're going to do nothing. Default break. It says this is expression body able too, so what if we did... Let's just try this. I'm curious to see if I can make it work, because I think it's more readable. Switch expressions also come in an expression format as well. An expression form, each arm is an expression, and the whole switch is also an expression. Our pirate menu looks like this when written with a switch expression. So, response, choice, switch. All right, let's, we'll do... ammo manager equals choice. Am I missing something? Equals reloader component switch. One response. Response is a string. Weapon config dot reload type. Hey, we went beyond to something. Reload type dot magazine. New magazine reload this. That's neat. Oh, it didn't work. Why didn't it work? Reload type dot manual. New manual reload this. I'm introducing my own issues. Reload type dot battery. All right. I'm going to beg off that for a sec. And we do that at the very end. Uh-oh, there's a very upset ear infection baby upstairs. I'm going to have to end this in a couple minutes. Let's quickly create those two components just to see what happens. Go back to Unity. Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Okay. We will do two new scripts. We're going to do manual reload. Yeah, shoot. And we will do battery reload or whatever. I know one of them doesn't match the others, but it's fine. Okay. So now I'm going to have to fix those. It's going to drive me nuts. Manual reload. Let it compile. Battery reload. Let it compile. Okay. Namespace. Name battery reload could not be found. And this is a reloader component. We're going to implement the abstract class, and we're going to say debug.log reloading. And, oh, do we need... whoops. Generate constructor. Sweet. Battery reload. Battery reload. All right, one's done. We'll do manual reload, and we'll fix this pronto right away. We can get rid of all of this crap, and we can say generate constructor. Oh, didn't work because this is a reloader component. Let's try that again. Generate constructor. That looks good. Implement abstract class. Debug.log. Reloading from a manual reloader. Okay. All right. Now weapon state machine switch. Switch does not handle some values of its input type. It is not exhaustive, involving an unnamed enum value. For example, reload type 3 is not covered. Okay. How about now? I got battery reload. What are you talking about right now? Okay, I guess it's going to be... new magazine. Oops. New magazine. Reload. Whoop. Oop. This. Alright. That's not perfect because it means that if there's some issue, we're going to run into something there, but I will investigate that later. So now we have another to-do. To-do, set up weapon... set up weapon attack state from constructor, and also to do set up weapon idle state. So actually, I think we'll leave using system, but I don't need the, whatever that XML thing is. Yeah, I know how that works. Duh. Current state needs to be that. I guess I have to think about how I want to store that. I'm going to move this. Move it down. Okay, enum index can go to heck. Battery reload does nothing right now. Manual reload does nothing. Yep, we're going to save reloader component. And in the magazine thing, we are going to do... Do I have a... Where's my... I don't know if this will work. Debug.log magazine component online. All right. Console. State 36. What if we just do this? Ammo manager dot initialize ammo. Actually, that's probably a better place to do this debug command. Ammo online. Okay. Called it 3 times. Let's see if I delete that, and I should only call it twice. I didn't call it at all. Reference script. Oh, it's because it's running. Okay, called it twice. So let's chase this down just to make sure we understand what's going on. If I go to player and I look at my loadout script, I have 2 Comanches spawning. So if I set this to none and I go to play, I should only get the 1. All right, we understand how our system works. I think that's enough for today. I've been streaming for a little bit. I am going to go help out with breakfast and go take care of ear infection baby. I would like to see going forward. I think I wish this was firing, but it's fine. How far out am I? 76? I'm within 80. We'll leave it like that. Okay. So that's how this should be working. Debug.log, reloading, magazine, and you know what? Let's do it down here. We'll do a format string. We'll do current ammo. Reserve. There we go. Okay. And at the moment, I can't even call this to see if it's working because I don't have it in my input system. So I need to go to player, input reader, mono behavior controls. That's not helpful. Okay. Where did I store those? Space, assets, readme, settings, screen, scripts, maybe, nope. Input settings, that seems right. Okay, player controls. We're going to do reload. And we are going to bind reload to a button. We're going to leave this for now, and we're just going to set the reload path to listen to E. Keyboard and mouse, and we will add one more binding the gamepad, just in case I ever actually bother to use it. Gamepad, we're going to do button west. Save asset. It's going to throw errors. That is okay. Implement this. Okay. On destroy. Some player controls. I don't know how to deal with that ambiguity at the moment. Why is this happening? Nope. Wasn't happening a minute ago. Are there 2 sets of controls? Game controls, game controls. Yep. Save. Alright. On mouse aim. On reload. We're going to call... We're actually going to get an event here. Reload event. on reload, we will do reload event.invoke. What? There's no argument of bool. Oh. You know what? Dot read value bool. Debug not log. Okay. Let's give that a little crack, see what happens. Nothing. That's not good. On reload. Oh, wait. On reload. Huh. Callback context. Did I not map it to E? Project. Player controls. Reload. E. Yeah. Alright, well, that's a little mystery to leave off on. Why is that not working? Loading. Let's give that a shot, see if that's the issue. Maybe I'm reading the bool wrong. Nope. Okay. Alright, well, that's just an issue for me to deal with on another day. I gotta go help with the babies. Alright, if you tagged along, drop a comment, tell me what you worked on. If not, well, I guess you wouldn't hear this. So,